When a mafia boss decides you belong to him, running isn't an option. Emma Ross never believed in fairy tales, especially not the kind drenched in blood and wrapped in expensive Italian suits. But when Dante Castiano walked into her trauma center that freezing Chicago night, her ordinary life shattered like glass. One touch, one look, one dangerous promise. Now she's caught between a world she doesn't understand and a man who refuses to let her go. This is a story of obsession, protection, and the thin line between salvation and destruction. Stay until the end, hit that like button, and comment your city so I can see how far this story travels. The fluorescent lights of Chicago Memorial's emergency department buzzed like angry wasps, casting their harsh white glow over linoleum floors that had seen more blood than any battlefield. Emma Ross stood at the nurse's station, her scrubs clinging to her body with the kind of sweat that came from 16 hours of relentless chaos, trauma after trauma, code after code, life slipping through her fingers despite her best efforts. Her hands trembled as she reached for her fourth cup of coffee, the bitter liquid having long lost its ability to do anything but coat her tongue with acrid film. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, making her look older than her 28 years. She'd stopped seeing her reflection weeks ago, avoiding mirrors like they might reveal something she wasn't ready to face. "Emma, you look like death," Marlene, the veteran charge nurse, said, without looking up from her charts. Her voice carried the rough edges of 3 decades in emergency medicine. "Go home." "Can't." Emma's voice came out hoarse, scratched raw from shouting medical orders all shift. "I picked up Jenkins overnight. Need the money." Marlene's head snapped up, her weathered face creasing with concern. "That's 24 hours straight. You'll kill someone. Or yourself." Or both, Emma thought darkly, but she just shrugged. Marlene didn't know about the eviction notice crumpled in Emma's locker, or the student loan payment she'd missed for the 3rd month running, or the refrigerator at home that contained exactly 1 yogurt and half a bottle of flat Diet Coke. She didn't know about the calls from debt collectors that Emma had stopped answering, or the shame that burned in her chest every time she calculated how spectacularly she'd failed at the American dream. Nursing school was supposed to save her. It was supposed to be her ticket out of the South Side apartment where she'd grown up watching her mother work 3 jobs and still come up short. Instead, Emma had traded one kind of poverty for another, this one dressed in scrubs and buried under a mountain of debt that grew faster than she could chip away at it. "I'm fine," Emma lied, the words automatic after months of practice. The ambulance bay doors exploded open before Marlene could argue, and the familiar organized chaos of incoming trauma swallowed them both. Emma moved on autopilot, her exhausted body remembering the dance even when her mind felt wrapped in cotton. It was just after 2 a.m. when everything changed. The waiting room had finally thinned out, the usual Friday night parade of bar fights and overdoses having been processed and either admitted or sent home with stern warnings they'd ignore. Emma was updating charts, her handwriting getting progressively sloppier as her vision blurred with fatigue, when she felt it. That primitive instinct that made the hair on her neck stand up, the one that whispered danger in a voice older than thought. She looked up. The man standing into the emergency department entrance didn't belong there. That was her first thought, immediate and certain. He wore a black suit that probably cost more than Emma made in 6 months, tailored so perfectly it seemed painted onto his tall, muscular frame. Dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from marble, all sharp angles and aristocratic features that would have been beautiful if not for the cold, calculating intelligence in his eyes. Those eyes. Gray like a winter storm, hard as gunmetal, and currently scanning the emergency department with the kind of territorial assessment that made Emma's pulse quicken. This wasn't a man who asked for permission. This was a man who took what he wanted and dealt with the consequences later. Behind him stood 2 other men, clearly guards, despite their attempts at civilian clothes. The bulges under their jackets weren't hard to identify for anyone who'd worked enough trauma shifts. Emma had dug countless bullets out of countless bodies. She knew what armed men looked like. The man's gaze swept across the waiting room, past the drunk teenager holding an ice pack to his face, past the elderly woman clutching her chest, past the junkie in the corner waiting for his methadone, and stopped on Emma. The impact of that stare hit her like a physical force. Emma's breath caught in her throat as those storm-gray eyes locked onto hers, and for a moment the chaos of the emergency department faded to white noise. She felt pinned, examined, seen in a way that made her want to simultaneously run and step closer. His expression didn't change. He didn't smile or nod or give any indication that he found her worth noticing beyond that initial assessment. But he started walking toward her, and Emma's survival instincts finally kicked in. She looked down at her charts, heart hammering, trying to project an aura of being too busy to be bothered. It didn't work. "I need to see Dr. Reeves." His voice matched everything else about him, smooth, cultured, and carrying an undercurrent of absolute authority. The kind of voice that was used to instant obedience. Emma forced herself to look up, to meet those eyes again, even though it felt like staring into the sun. Up close, he was even more imposing. He had to be at least 6'3", and the expensive cologne he wore, something dark and woody with notes of bergamot, cut through the usual emergency department smell of antiseptic and desperation. "Dr. Reeves isn't on tonight," Emma heard herself say, proud that her voice came out steady despite the way her hands wanted to shake. "Dr. Morrison is the attending. If you're here for treatment, I'm not." He cut her off without malice, just stating a fact. "When will Reeves be back?" "Monday morning, 7 a.m. Emma paused, some stubborn part of her refusing to be intimidated. "Are you family of a patient?" Something that might have been amusement flickered across his face, so brief she might have imagined it. "No." The silence stretched between them, and Emma became acutely aware that everyone in the waiting room was watching this interaction. Marlene had gone suspiciously still at the nurse's station. Even the drunk teenager had lowered his ice pack to stare. "Then I can't help you," Emma said, turning back to her charts with more confidence than she felt. "This is a hospital, not a—" The world tilted sideways. One moment, Emma was standing, self-righteously dismissing the dangerous stranger. The next, her vision went black at the edges. Her knees buckled, and she felt herself falling toward the unforgiving linoleum floor. She never hit it. Strong arms caught her, and Emma found herself pulled against that expensive suit, her face pressed against a chest that felt like warm stone beneath fine wool. The scent of bergamot and something uniquely male enveloped her. And despite every rational thought screaming warnings in her head, Emma's body went limp with relief. When was the last time someone had caught her? When was the last time anyone had touched her with anything resembling gentleness? Emma couldn't remember. She lived in a world of professional touches, checking vitals, starting IVs, CPR compressions. But this was different. This was personal, and God help her, she'd been starving for it without even realizing. "When did you last eat?" The question rumbled through his chest, vibrating against her cheek. This morning. Maybe." Emma's voice came out muffled against his jacket. She knew she should pull away, should be mortified by this display of weakness, but her body refused to cooperate. She was so tired, so desperately, bone-deep tired. "Maybe." He repeated the word with something that might have been disapproval. "And sleep? I'm working a double, almost triple." Why was she telling him this? Why was she still leaning against him like he was the only thing keeping her upright? Which, embarrassingly, might be true. "I'm fine." I just stood up too fast. "You're not fine." He said it with absolute certainty, like he had the right to make declarations about her well-being. One of his hands moved to the back of her head, fingers tangling in her ponytail with a possessiveness that should have alarmed her. "You're running on empty." "Emma?" Marlene's voice cut through the fog. "Should I call security?" That snapped Emma back to reality. She pushed against the stranger's chest, and he let her go immediately, though his hands lingered at her waist for a moment longer than necessary, long enough to make sure she was steady, or long enough to make a point. Emma wasn't sure which. She stepped back, her face burning with humiliation. The entire waiting room was staring now, and Emma could already hear the gossip that would spread through the hospital by morning shift change. "Did you hear about Emma Ross and that guy in the suit?" Practically fell into his arms. "I'm fine, Marlene," Emma managed, not looking at the man who just held her like she was something precious instead of a mess of student debt and failure. "Everything's fine." Dante Castellano. He held out a hand to Marlene, and Emma's experienced supervisor actually blushed like a schoolgirl. "I apologize for the disturbance. I'm looking for Dr. Reeves regarding a private matter." Marlene shook his hand, and Emma watched her melt under the force of whatever charm he was deploying. "He'll be in Monday morning, Mr. Castellano. I can leave a message." "That won't be necessary." Dante's gaze shifted back to Emma, and she felt that impact again, that sense of being cataloged and filed away in a mind that forgot nothing. "I'll return Monday." He turned to leave, his guards falling into step behind him, and Emma released a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. The emergency department seemed to exhale with her, the normal sounds of beeping monitors and distant conversations slowly returning to fill the silence he'd created. But then he stopped. Dante turned back, and Emma's heart kicked against her ribs as he walked toward her again. This time, when he reached the nurse's station, he pulled something from his jacket, a business card in heavy black cardstock with silver lettering. "If you need anything." He placed it on the counter in front of her, his fingers briefly brushing hers in a touch that felt deliberate. "Anything at all." Then he was gone, striding out of the emergency department like a king leaving his throne room, and Emma was left staring at a business card that contained only a name and a phone number. No company, no title, just Dante Castellano and 10 digits that suddenly felt like the most dangerous thing she'd ever held. "Holy shit," Marlene whispered. "Do you know who that was?" Emma shook her head, still staring at the card. "Dante Castellano." Marlene said the name like it should mean something. "As in the Castellano family, as in the Chicago outfit." She lowered her voice. "Emma, that man runs half the organized crime in this city." The card felt like it was burning Emma's fingers. A mafia boss. She'd just been held by a mafia boss, had melted into his arms like some heroine in a dime store romance novel, and now she had his direct number sitting in front of her like a loaded gun. "I need to throw this away," Emma said, but she didn't move. "Probably," Marlene agreed, "but I notice you're not doing it." Emma didn't have an answer for that. Instead, she slipped the card into her scrub pocket, telling herself it was just to avoid the awkwardness of throwing it away in front of Marlene. That was all. She'd toss it later. She didn't. Well, the rest of Emma's shift blurred together in the usual parade of human misery and minor miracles. She set a broken arm, talked a suicidal teenager into letting them admit her for observation, and held the hand of an elderly man while he died from a heart attack despite everything they tried. By the time 7 a.m. rolled around and the day shift arrived, Emma was operating on pure muscle memory. She changed out of her scrubs in the staff locker room, the card in her pocket transferring to her jeans like a small weight against her thigh. Her reflection in the bathroom mirror looked exactly like Marlene had said, like death. Dark circles, pale skin, eyes that had seen too much and slept too little. Emma splashed cold water on her face and tried to remember who she'd been before nursing school, before the debt, before the grinding poverty that had become her normal. Had she been happy once? She must have been. Everyone was happy once, before life got its claws in. The February morning hit her like a slap when she exited through the staff entrance. Chicago in winter was an exercise in endurance, and Emma's coat, bought from a thrift store 3 years ago, did little against the wind that whipped off Lake Michigan. She pulled it tighter and started the 6-block walk to her apartment, too tired to wait for the bus. The streets were starting to wake up. Coffee shops opening, commuters hurrying to the L, homeless people huddled in doorways against the cold. Emma walked past all of it, her mind stuck on storm-gray eyes and the feeling of strong arms catching her fall. Mafia, she reminded herself. Organized crime. Dangerous. But when was the last time anyone had asked when she'd eaten? When she'd slept? When was the last time someone had looked at her like she mattered? Emma hated how pathetic that sounded, even in her own head. Her apartment building was a walk-up in a neighborhood that was transitioning. Real estate speak for still sketchy, but getting expensive anyway. Emma climbed the 3 flights to her studio, each step feeling like a mountain, and let herself into a space that could charitably be called sparse. A futon that served as both couch and bed. A kitchenette with appliances from the Carter administration. A bathroom the size of a closet. One window that looked out onto the brick wall of the building next door. This was what $1,200 a month got you in Chicago when you were drowning in debt. The eviction notice was still on her counter where she'd left it yesterday morning. 3 months behind on rent. 5 days to pay or vacate. Emma didn't know where she'd find $3,600 in 5 days. She didn't know where she'd find it in 5 years. She was so tired she could cry, but crying took energy she didn't have. Instead, Emma collapsed onto her futon without bothering to pull it out into bed mode and closed her eyes. Sleep didn't come. Her mind kept circling back to Dante Castiano, to the way he'd held her, to the card in her pocket. If you need anything. What kind of anything? What would a man like that expect in return? Emma had watched enough crime dramas to know how this worked. You don't take favors from mafia bosses without paying a price. You don't accept help from dangerous men unless you're willing to become their property. But God, she was tired of fighting alone, tired of drowning, tired of pretending she had her shit together when she was one crisis away from complete collapse. Her phone buzzed, and Emma fished it out with the last of her energy. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but some instinct made her swipe to accept. Hello? Emma Ross? A smooth male voice, professional, not Dante. I'm calling from Premier Food Services. We have a delivery for your address. I didn't order anything. It's been paid for. We'll be there in 20 minutes. The line went dead before Emma could protest. 23 minutes later, Emma counted, too confused and wired to sleep. Someone knocked on her door. Through the peephole, she saw a man in a crisp uniform holding several large bags emblazoned with a logo she recognized from Michigan Avenue, the kind of place where appetizers cost what she made in an hour. Emma opened the door to a crack, the chain still engaged. I think there's been a mistake. Emma Ross, apartment 3C? The delivery man checked his tablet. No mistake. Where would you like these? She let him in because she was too tired to argue, watching in bewilderment as he unpacked enough food to feed a family for a week. Gourmet sandwiches, fresh fruit, salads in containers that probably cost more than the food inside, hot soup in insulated carriers, fresh bread, cheese, chocolate. There's been a mistake, Emma repeated, but her stomach growled traitorously at the smell of real food. No mistake, ma'am. Everything's been paid for, including tip. He handed her a small card. Enjoy your meal. Then he was gone, and Emma was left staring at enough food to make her refrigerator look ridiculous. The card was the same heavy black cardstock as before, but this one had a message in sharp, masculine handwriting. Eat, sleep. You're no good to anyone if you collapse. Emma should have been angry, should have been insulted by the presumption, the high-handed way he'd decided she needed taking care of, should have packed all of it up and donated it to a shelter or thrown it away. Instead, she picked up one of the sandwiches, some artisanal creation with prosciutto and fresh mozzarella, and took a bite. It was the best thing she'd tasted in months. Emma ate until she was full for the first time in weeks. Then she crawled onto her futon and fell into sleep so deep it felt like drowning. She woke to pounding on her door and confusion about what day it was. The light coming through her window had the quality of late afternoon, and her phone said it was 4:47 p.m. Emma had slept for nearly 9 hours, a record for the past 6 months. The pounding continued. Emma Ross, this is building management. Open up. Her landlord. Perfect. Emma dragged herself to the door, still wearing yesterday's clothes, her hair a disaster. Mr. Patterson stood in the hallway, his usual expression of vague disgust firmly in place. The eviction notice was clear, Ms. Ross. You have 5 days to pay what you owe, or I know what it said. Then you'll know that I need to verify you're still in residence and haven't abandoned the property. He was already trying to peer past her into the apartment. I have a right to... You have a right to nothing without 24 hours' notice, Emma snapped, some of her fight returning with food and sleep. Check your own paperwork. Patterson's face reddened. You have 5 days. After that, your belongings will be on the street, and I'll be changing the locks. Find the money, or find somewhere else to live. He stomped off, and Emma closed the door before he could see her hands shaking. 5 days. She had 5 days to come up with money she didn't have, couldn't borrow, and had no way of earning fast enough. She could pick up extra shifts, but that would take weeks to make a dent. She could ask her mom, but her mom was living in a nursing home on Medicaid. Emma was still paying off those bills too. She had no siblings, no other family, no friends close enough to loan her that kind of money. Emma's gaze fell on her jeans crumpled on the floor. on the pocket that held a black business card with a phone number. If you need anything. No, Emma said out loud to her empty apartment. Absolutely not. She had standards, limits, lines she wouldn't cross. Taking money from a mafia boss was definitely over that line. Except, was it really taking if she didn't ask? If he'd already decided to help her? Stop it, Emma told herself. This is how it starts. This is how people get trapped. She spent the next hour trying to think of alternatives, making lists on the back of old bills, calculating and recalculating numbers that never added up to enough. By the time the sun set, Emma had accepted what she'd known from the moment Patterson walked away. She was out of options. With shaking hands, Emma pulled out Dante's card and stared at it for a long moment. Then, before she could talk herself out of it, she typed a text message to the number. This is Emma Ross, from the hospital. Thank you for the food. That was kind, more than I deserved. She hit send before she could delete it, then immediately wanted to throw her phone across the room. What was she doing? What did she expect? That some mafia boss would... Her phone buzzed. You deserved it. Have you slept? Emma stared at the message, her heart doing complicated things in her chest. He'd responded immediately, like he'd been waiting, like her message mattered. Yes. 9 hours. I feel almost human. Good. Are you working tonight? No, I have 2 days off. Have dinner with me. It wasn't a question. Emma should have said no, should have made an excuse, should have ended this before it started. Instead, she typed, why? The response came after a longer pause this time, and Emma imagined him considering his answer, choosing his words carefully. Because I want to know why you're working yourself to death. Because you looked at me like I was dangerous and then melted into my arms anyway. Because I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since I walked out of that hospital. Emma read the message 3 times, her hands trembling. This was insane, dangerous, stupid, everything she'd spent her life trying to avoid. She typed back anyway. Okay, I'll send a car. 6 p.m. Wear whatever you're comfortable in. Emma looked around her apartment, at the gourmet food containers still spread across her counter, at the eviction notice that seemed to mock her from its place by the sink, at the life she'd built that was crumbling faster than she could shore it up. What did she have to lose? The car that arrived at 6 p.m. was exactly what Emma expected. Sleek, black, expensive, with tinted windows and a driver who held the door open like she was someone important. She'd chosen her only dress, a simple black thing from Target that she wore to job interviews and funerals, paired with boots because her only heels had a broken strap she couldn't afford to fix. Emma felt ridiculous climbing into a car that probably cost more than she'd made in her entire nursing career, but the driver's expression remained professionally neutral. He didn't judge the neighborhood or her cheap dress or the way she clutched her thrift store purse like a shield. They drove north, away from Emma's neighborhood, and into areas where the buildings got taller and the people got richer. The restaurant was the kind of place Emma had only seen in magazines, intimate, exclusive, the kind where you needed a reservation months in advance, and the menu didn't list prices. Dante was waiting at the corner table, and Emma's breath caught at the sight of him. He'd traded his suit for something more casual, dark slacks and a crisp white shirt, the top 2 buttons undone to reveal a hint of tan skin and a glint of gold chain. He stood when he saw her, and every eye in the restaurant turned to watch him move. Emma. He took her hand, his thumb brushing across her knuckles in a gesture that felt more intimate than a handshake should. You look beautiful. She didn't. She knew she didn't. But the way he looked at her made her feel like maybe she could be. Thank you for coming, Dante said, pulling out her chair. I know this probably feels insane, Emma supplied. Dangerous? Like the beginning of a very bad decision? That almost smile flickered across his face again. All of the above. A waiter appeared with wine, something French and expensive that Emma didn't know how to pronounce, and menus that were indeed priceless. Emma stared at descriptions of food she'd never heard of, panic rising in her throat. May I? Dante reached for her menu, and at her nod, he ordered for both of them in flawless Italian. The waiter melted away, and they were left in a bubble of candlelight and expensive table linens. So, Emma said, desperate to fill the silence, you run half the organized crime in Chicago. Dante's eyebrow rose. Marlene's been talking. Marlene has worked in emergency rooms for 30 years. She knows things. And yet you're here. And yet I'm here, Emma echoed, which brings us back to insane, dangerous, and bad decision. I don't want to hurt you, Emma. Dante leaned forward, his gray eyes intense in the candlelight. That's not why I asked you here. Then why? He was quiet for a moment, his fingers tracing patterns on the stem of his wine glass. When he spoke, his voice carried an honesty that surprised her. Because I saw something in you. Something broken. And I recognized it because I see it in my mirror every day. Emma's throat tightened. I'm not broken. No? Dante's gaze pinned her. Then why are you working yourself to death? Why do you look like you haven't eaten a decent meal in months? Why did you melt into my arms like it was the first kindness you'd experienced in years? You don't know me. Then let me. He reached across the table, his hand palm up in invitation. Let me know you, Emma Ross. She should have stood up and left, should have called a cab and gone back to her crumbling apartment and her impossible debt and her life of quiet desperation, should have recognized this for what it was, a powerful man offering rescue at a price she couldn't afford to pay. Instead, Emma placed her hand in his and felt something inside her chest crack open. I'm drowning, she whispered. I'm drowning, and I don't know how to stop. Then let me catch you. Dante's fingers tightened around hers. Like I did in the hospital. Let me catch you before you hit bottom. And God help her, Emma wanted to. The food arrived, course after exquisite course that Emma barely tasted because she was too focused on the man across from her. Dante asked questions, really listened to her answers, pulled out pieces of her story with the skill of someone used to extracting information. She told him about nursing school, about the debt, about working doubles and triples just to stay barely afloat, about her mother in the nursing home, about growing up poor, about the American dream that had turned into a nightmare of compound interest and impossible payments. The eviction notice, Emma heard herself say, wine loosening her tongue. I have 5 days to come up with 3 months' rent or I'm homeless. Dante's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. How much? It doesn't matter. How much, Emma? $3,600. She laughed, the sound bitter. Plus another $800 for this month. And my student loans are in default. That's another $42,000. And medical bills from when my mom got sick, $16,000. And credit cards I used to pay for groceries and gas, $9,000. Her voice cracked. I'm buried, and I can't dig myself out fast enough. The silence that followed felt heavy. Emma immediately regretted her honesty, regretted spilling her pathetic financial situation to a stranger who probably spent more on suits than she made in a year. I can fix this, Dante said quietly. No. Emma. He squeezed her hand. I can write a check right now that would solve all of these problems. Every single one. And then what? I owe you. I become your... Emma couldn't even finish the sentence. You become nothing you don't want to be. Dante's voice was firm, certain. I want to help you because I can. And because seeing you break yourself into pieces working shifts that would kill most people makes something in my chest ache. That's all. Nobody does something for nothing. No, he agreed. I want something. Emma's stomach dropped. Here it was. The price. I want you to let me take care of you. Dante said it like it was simple, like it made perfect sense. I want you to stop working yourself to death. I want you to eat decent food and get enough sleep. I want to see you smile without exhaustion behind it. That's what I want, Emma. Nothing more. I don't understand. You don't have to. He pulled out his phone, typed something quickly. What's your landlord's information? Dante. What's your landlord's information? He repeated it gently but firmly, and Emma found herself reciting Mr. Patterson's contact details like she was in a trance. Dante typed more, then showed her his phone. This is my assistant. She'll have a check delivered to him tomorrow for 6 months' rent, paid in advance. Your student loans, give me the account information. I'll have them paid off by Monday. The medical bills, the credit cards, all of it, gone. Emma stared at him, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. Why? Why would you do this? Because I can. Because I want to. Because... He paused, something vulnerable flickering across his face. Because I'm tired of seeing people break when I have the power to fix them. I'm not broken, Emma said again, but it sounded hollow, even to her ears. Then consider this preventative maintenance. Dante's thumb stroked across her knuckles again, the touch sending electricity up her arm. Let me do this, Emma. Let me help you. Every rational thought in her head screamed warnings. This was how it started. This was the trap. This was the moment she should run and never look back. But Emma was so tired of running, so tired of fighting, so tired of drowning alone. Okay, she whispered. Dante's expression shifted into something that might have been relief mixed with satisfaction. Okay. But I want to be clear. Emma forced herself to meet his eyes. I'm not sleeping with you for money. If that's what you're expecting, I'm not. He cut her off firmly. If and when you come to my bed, Emma, it will be because you want to be there. Not because you owe me. Never because you owe me. The certainty in his voice should have reassured her. Instead, it sent a different kind of fear through her system. The fear of wanting something she couldn't have, of falling for someone she couldn't keep, of letting herself believe in rescue when she'd learned long ago that nobody saved the drowning girls. But Dante was already typing on his phone again, making calls, giving orders in rapid Italian that Emma couldn't follow. She watched him work, this dangerous man who had decided she was worth saving, and felt something unfurl in her chest, something that might have been hope or might have been the beginning of the end. Either way, Emma knew her life had just changed irrevocably. For better or worse, she was no longer drowning alone. The waiter returned with dessert, something elaborate involving dark chocolate and gold leaf that Emma barely registered. Her mind was still reeling from what had just happened, from the casual way Dante had dismantled the mountain of debt that had been crushing her for years. She watched him take a call in rapid Italian, his free hand still holding hers across the table like he needed the connection as much as she did. When he hung up, his eyes found hers immediately. It's done. Your landlord will have the check by morning. The rest will take a few days to process, but by the end of the week, you'll be clear. Emma's chest felt too tight. I don't know what to say. Don't say anything yet. Dante's thumb traced circles on her palm, the repetitive motion both soothing and electric. Just breathe. Let it sink in. She tried. She pulled in air and pushed it out, but it didn't feel real. None of this felt real. The restaurant with its crystal chandeliers and hushed conversations, the man across from her who commanded respect with just his presence, the fact that her entire life had just shifted on its axis in the space of one dinner. I need to understand something, Emma said finally, her voice steadier than she felt. You don't know me. We met once for maybe 5 minutes, and I almost passed out on you. Why would you do this for a stranger? Dante was quiet for a moment, his gray eyes studying her face like he was memorizing every detail. When he spoke, his voice carried a weight that made her believe every word. You're not a stranger. The moment I caught you, the moment you let yourself lean into me instead of pulling away, something shifted. I can't explain it better than that. That's not an explanation at all. No, he agreed, but it's the truth. He paused, his jaw tightening slightly. I'm not a good man, Emma. I've done things that would make you run if you knew the details. But I know what it looks like when someone is drowning, and I have the power to throw you a lifeline. So I did. And you expect nothing in return. I expect you to take care of yourself, to stop working shifts that would break a normal person, to eat, to sleep, to remember that you're a human being, not just a machine that dispenses medical care. His grip on her hand tightened. That's all I expect. Emma wanted to believe him. God, how she wanted to believe him, but nothing in her life had prepared her for kindness without strings attached, for rescue without a price tag. I don't know how to do this, she admitted. I don't know how to just accept help. Then learn. Dante signaled for the check, and Emma noticed he didn't even look at the total before signing. Starting now, my driver will take you home, and tomorrow, he paused, considering. Tomorrow, I want you to do something for yourself, something you've been putting off because you couldn't afford it or didn't have time. Get your nails done. Sleep until noon. Go to a museum. I don't care what it is, as long as it's for you. I have errands. They can wait. He stood, helping her up with a hand at the small of her back. One day, Emma. Give yourself one day where you're not drowning. The drive back to her apartment felt different than the drive there. Emma sat in the back of the town car, watching the Chicago streets blur past, and tried to process everything that had happened. In the span of a few hours, Dante Castellano had eliminated her debt, fed her the best meal she'd had in years, and asked for nothing but her well-being in return. It was too good to be true. Everything in Emma's experience told her that. But when the car pulled up to her building and the driver opened her door, she found herself hesitating before getting out. Mr. Castellano asked me to give you this. The driver handed her a phone. Sleek, new, expensive. His number is already programmed. He said to call if you need anything. Anything at all. Emma took the phone like it might bite her. I have a phone. He said you'd say that. The driver's expression remained professionally neutral. He also said to tell you that yours is 3 years old with a cracked screen and you deserve better. Despite everything, Emma felt a smile tug at her lips. He's very presumptuous. He's very thorough, ma'am. The driver nodded toward her building. Will you be all right getting in? I've lived here for 2 years. I think I can manage. But as she climbed the stairs to her apartment, Emma felt the weight of the new phone in her purse like a promise. Or maybe a tether. She wasn't sure which yet. The next morning, Emma woke to pounding on her door for the second time in as many days. She dragged herself up, expecting Patterson with some new complaint, but instead found a delivery woman holding a garment bag and several boxes. Emma Ross? Yes? Delivery from Nordstrom. Where would you like these? Emma blinked at her stupidly. I didn't order anything from Nordstrom. They're paid for. I just need a signature. In a daze, Emma signed and let the woman in. The garment bag contained clothes, beautiful, expensive clothes in exactly her size. Soft sweaters, well-cut jeans, dresses that would actually fit properly, a winter coat that looked like it could withstand an Arctic expedition. The boxes held shoes, including boots that weren't falling apart, and heels with intact straps. A card nestled in the tissue paper, the handwriting now familiar. You can't take care of others if you're falling apart. Consider this preventative maintenance. D. Emma sat on her futon, surrounded by more nice clothes than she'd owned in her entire life, and felt tears prick her eyes. When was the last time someone had noticed what she needed before she had to ask? When was the last time someone had cared enough to pay attention? The new phone buzzed with a text. Did the delivery arrive? Emma picked it up, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. She should return everything, should establish boundaries, should protect herself before this went too far. Yes, this is too much. It's not nearly enough. Are you taking the day for yourself? I don't even know what that means anymore. Then let me show you. I'm sending a car. 1 hour. Dante. 1 hour, Emma. Trust me. She did return everything. She really did. But first, Emma found herself in the shower, washing away the hospital smell and exhaustion with fancy shampoo from one of the boxes. Then she was pulling on new jeans that actually fit her properly. A soft green sweater that brought out the color in her eyes. Boots that didn't pinch. By the time the car arrived, exactly 1 hour later, Emma had stopped questioning it. She just went. Dante was waiting in the back seat, dressed casually in dark jeans and a charcoal sweater that probably cost more than her old rent. He smiled when she climbed in, a real smile that transformed his face from intimidating to devastating. You look beautiful. Emma felt herself blush. The clothes are nice. The clothes are just wrapping. You're beautiful. He said it with such casual certainty that Emma didn't know how to argue. Are you hungry? I ate some of the food you sent yesterday. That's not what I asked. Dante leaned forward to the driver. Marcus, the French place on Oak Street. Dante, I can't keep letting you buy me food. Why not? Because it's too much. All of this is too much. He turned to face her fully, his gray eyes serious. Emma, I spent more money on the suit I wore yesterday than I've spent on you so far. This isn't even a rounding error in my monthly expenses. Please let me do this. That's not the point. Then what is the point? He wasn't angry, just genuinely curious. Help me understand why you're fighting this so hard. Emma struggled to find words for the panic rising in her chest. Because I don't know what you want from me. Because nothing is free. Because people like you don't just help people like me without expecting something in return. People like me, Dante repeated softly. You mean criminals. I mean powerful men who are used to getting what they want. Fair enough. He was quiet for a moment, his jaw working like he was choosing his words carefully. I want your company. I want to see you smile without exhaustion behind it. I want to know what you look like when you're not drowning. Those are the things I want, Emma. If that's too high a price for financial security and decent meals, tell me now, and I'll have Marcus take you home. The car had stopped at a red light, and Emma could see her reflection in the window, hair still damp, new clothes, sitting in a town car next to a mafia boss who wanted nothing but her company. It was absurd, impossible, dangerous. I'll have brunch with you, she heard herself say, but after that, we need to talk about boundaries. Dante's smile was small, but genuine. After that, we can talk about whatever you want. The French place turned out to be a bistro with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the park. They sat at a corner table, and Dante ordered in French while Emma tried not to stare at the prices on the menu. Everything cost more than she used to spend on groceries for a week. Tell me something, Dante said after the waiter left. What did you want to be before nursing school? The question caught Emma off guard. What do you mean? Every little girl has a dream, ballerina, astronaut, princess. What was yours? Emma traced the rim of her water glass, memories bubbling up that she'd buried under years of survival mode. A writer. I wanted to write books. What kind of books? Stories where people got saved, where the broken things got fixed and the good people won. She laughed, the sound bitter. Naive, right? Not naive. Hopeful. Dante leaned forward, his elbows on the table in a way that should have been rude, but somehow wasn't. What happened? Reality happened. You can't pay rent with stories, can't eat hopes and dreams. Emma met his eyes. So I became practical. Nursing was stable, necessary, something that would always be in demand. I thought I could write on the side, but between school and work and my mom getting sick, she shrugged. There was never time, never energy. The dream just faded. What if you had time now? What if you had energy? I still have to work. Do you? Dante's voice was gentle but probing. Your rent is paid for 6 months. Your debt is gone. What if you cut back? Worked part-time, gave yourself space to breathe? Emma shook her head. I can't just... Why not? Because that's not how life works. Because the other shoe always drops. Because... She stopped, her throat tight. Because I don't know how to be the person who gets saved. I'm the person who saves others. That's my job, my purpose. And what happens when you have nothing left to give? Dante reached across the table, his hand palm up in invitation. Emma, you're running on fumes. Another few months of this and you'll burn out completely. Is that what you want? No, but then let me help you find a different way. His gray eyes held hers, intense and unwavering. Let me give you the space to figure out who you are when you're not just surviving. The food arrived before Emma could respond. Delicate pastries, perfectly poached eggs, fresh fruit that actually tasted like fruit, instead of the wan, tasteless things from the discount grocery store. Emma ate slowly, savoring each bite, while Dante watched her with an expression she couldn't quite decipher. What? She asked finally. You eat like someone who's been hungry. It wasn't a question. I have been hungry. Not starving, not literally dying, but Emma paused, choosing her words. You know that feeling where you're just always a little bit empty, where food is fuel, not pleasure? I felt that way for so long I forgot what it was like to actually enjoy eating. Dante's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. You won't feel that way anymore. You can't promise that. Watch me. They finished the meal in comfortable silence, and when the check came, Dante handled it with the same casual dismissal of money that made Emma's head spin. This was his normal. Expensive meals, expensive clothes, the ability to solve problems with a phone call and a checkbook. Meanwhile, Emma had spent the last 3 years stealing ketchup packets from the hospital cafeteria. "What are you thinking?" Dante asked as they walked to the car. "That our lives are so different they might as well be on separate planets." Maybe. He held the car door open for her. Or maybe that's exactly why this works. Emma slid into the back seat, and Dante followed, close enough that she could feel his body heat. The car started moving, and she realized she didn't know where they were going. Didn't particularly care either, which should have alarmed her, but didn't. "Where are we going?" she asked anyway. "Somewhere you can relax." Dante's hand found hers on the seat between them, his fingers threading through hers like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Do you trust me?" "I don't know you well enough to trust you." "Then trust that I have no reason to hurt you, that doing so would serve no purpose and would actually complicate my life significantly." He squeezed her hand. "I'm a businessman, Emma. Everything I do is calculated to serve my interests. Right now, my interest is seeing you safe and happy." "Why?" "Because I want to." He said it simply, like that explained everything. Maybe it did. The car pulled up to a building Emma vaguely recognized from passing by on the bus, one of those luxury high-rises along the lakefront where apartments started at 7 figures. The doorman greeted Dante by name, and Emma found herself in an elevator rising to the penthouse level. "This is your building," she said. "This is where I live." Dante kept hold of her hand as the elevator doors opened directly into an apartment that was bigger than some houses. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Lake Michigan, the view stretching for miles. The decor was masculine but elegant. Dark wood, leather furniture, artwork that was probably original and definitely expensive. Emma stopped in the entryway, suddenly uncertain. "Dante, I'm not going to touch you." He said it firmly, letting go of her hand to prove the point. "I just want you to see something." He led her through the apartment to a room near the back. A library with built-in shelves stretching to the ceiling, filled with books. Thousands of books. A leather chair sat by the window, perfectly positioned to catch the afternoon light, with a reading lamp and a small table beside it. "I want you to have a place," Dante said quietly. "A place where you can come and just be. No one will bother you here, no landlords, no debt collectors, no patients dying in your arms. Just you and whatever story you want to lose yourself in." Emma stared at him, her heart doing complicated things in her chest. "You can't just give me access to your home. I can do whatever I want. That's the benefit of being me." He walked to one of the shelves, pulled down a worn copy of something Emma couldn't see the title of. "I read to escape. When I was a kid, books were the only place I felt safe. I thought maybe—" He trailed off, looking almost uncertain. "Maybe you could use a place like that too." "Dante," Emma's voice came out whisper soft. "Why are you doing this?" He set the book down and turned to face her fully. "Because when I held you in that hospital, you felt like something I'd been missing without knowing it. Because watching you try to stay strong when you're clearly breaking makes something in my chest ache. Because I have all this power and money and resources. And what's the point of any of it if I can't use it to help one exhausted nurse who looked at me like I was dangerous and kissed my cheek anyway?" "I didn't kiss your cheek. You wanted to. I could see it in your eyes." He stepped closer, not touching, but near enough that Emma had to tilt her head back to meet his gaze. "I can see a lot of things in your eyes, Emma, including the fact that you're terrified of this, but you want it anyway." "I don't know what this is." "Neither do I," Dante admitted. "But I want to find out. Don't you?" Emma should have said no, should have drawn the line, established the boundaries, protected herself from the inevitable crash. Instead, she found herself nodding. "Good." Dante's hand came up to cup her face, his thumb brushing her cheekbone with devastating gentleness. "Then stay, read, rest. Let yourself exist without purpose for a few hours. I have work to do anyway. I'll be in my office. But you're safe here, Emma. I promise you that." He left before she could respond, closing the library door behind him with a soft click. Emma stood in the middle of the room, surrounded by thousands of stories of people being saved, and felt something inside her crack open just a little wider. She pulled a book at random from the shelf, an old copy of Jane Eyre, the pages yellowed with age, and curled up in the leather chair. The afternoon sun streamed through the window, warm on her face, and for the first time in longer than she could remember, Emma let herself simply exist. Hours passed. Emma read until her eyes grew heavy, then dozed in the chair, wrapped in a throw blanket she found draped over the armrest. When she woke, the sun was setting over the lake, painting the water in shades of orange and pink that took her breath away. A knock on the door preceded Dante entering with a tray. "I thought you might be hungry." Emma sat up, disoriented and sleep-rumpled. "What time is it?" "Almost 6. He set the tray on the small table. Soup, bread, cheese, fruit. Simple, but elegant. "You slept for 3 hours." "I'm sorry." "Don't apologize for resting." Dante crouched beside the chair, his eyes level with hers. "How do you feel?" Emma took inventory. Her head felt clearer than it had in months. The constant tension in her shoulders had eased. She felt lighter. "Better. I feel better." "Good." He stood, offering his hand. "Eat. Then I'll have Marcus take you home." "You're not eating?" "I have a meeting." Something flickered across his face, too quick to identify. "Business that can't wait." Emma took his hand and let him pull her up, suddenly aware of how close they were standing. She could smell his cologne, see the faint scar above his left eyebrow, count the different shades of gray in his eyes. "What kind of business?" she asked, even though she probably didn't want to know. "The kind you're better off not knowing about." Dante's hand came up to tuck a strand of hair behind her ear, the gesture so tender it made Emma's chest ache. "Eat. Rest more if you want. The library is yours whenever you need it. I'll leave a key with the doorman." "Dante?" "Please, Emma." His voice dropped to something almost pleading. "Let me give you this. Let me give you a place where you can breathe." She nodded, not trusting her voice, and Dante's expression softened into something that looked almost like relief. He pressed a kiss to her forehead, brief, chaste, but charged with more emotion than some people's wedding vows. And then he was gone. Emma ate the soup mechanically, her mind racing. This was happening too fast. She was falling too hard for a man she barely knew, a dangerous man who had literally made her problems disappear with money and phone calls. This wasn't a fairy tale. This was real life, and in real life, mafia bosses didn't save broken nurses out of the goodness of their hearts. But when Marcus drove her home that night, Emma found herself clutching the key Dante had left, a small brass thing that felt heavy with possibility. And when she climbed the stairs to her apartment, she noticed for the first time that the hallway light was working, the one that had been broken for 6 months that Patterson had refused to fix. A note was taped to her door in handwriting she didn't recognize. "Building maintenance completed as per Mr. Castellano's request. All repairs listed below have been addressed." The list was extensive. The broken light, the leaky faucet in Emma's bathroom, the window that wouldn't close properly, the radiator that clanked all night. Things Emma had learned to live with, small indignities she'd accepted as part of being poor, all fixed. Emma unlocked her door and stepped into her apartment, her shabby, cramped, falling apart apartment that Dante had somehow made more livable with a few phone calls. She set the brass key on her counter next to the eviction notice she could now throw away, and felt tears finally spill over. This was too much. All of it was too much. But God help her, Emma didn't want it to stop. Her phone, the new one, buzzed with a text. "Did you find the key?" Emma's fingers trembled as she typed back, "Yes, thank you for everything. You don't have to thank me for basic human decency. Most people don't know what that looks like." There was a long pause before his response came through. "Then most people are failing at being human." "Sleep well, Emma. I'll see you soon." "When?" "When you're ready. The library will be here whenever you need it. So will I." Emma read the message 3 times before setting the phone down. She should be scared. Should be running. Should be protecting herself from the inevitable moment when Dante Castellano revealed what he really wanted from her. Instead, she found herself pulling out her laptop, the battered thing she'd bought used 5 years ago, and opening a blank document. Her fingers hovered over the keys for a long moment, rusty from years of disuse. Then Emma started typing. The words came slowly at first, then faster, A story pouring out about a girl who was drowning and a dangerous man who decided to save her. Fiction, she told herself, pure fiction. But as the hours passed and the word count grew, Emma knew she was writing the only truth she had left. By the time she finally crawled into bed at 2 a.m., she had 5,000 words and a feeling in her chest she'd almost forgotten existed. Hope, the words kept coming. Over the next 3 days, Emma found herself splitting time between the hospital. She'd cut back to 3 shifts a week, a decision that had made her supervisor's eyebrows climb into her hairline, and Dante's library, where she wrote like someone possessed. The story poured out of her, raw and honest and terrifying in its transparency. She didn't see Dante during those 3 days. He texted her every morning, simple messages asking if she'd slept, if she'd eaten, if she needed anything. But he didn't push for more. The library was always open to her. The doorman, a kind-faced man named Thomas, greeted her by name and never asked questions when she showed up at odd hours with her laptop in a desperate need for silence. On the 4th day, Emma arrived at the penthouse to find Dante standing by the library window, backlit by the afternoon sun. He turned when she entered, and the smile that crossed his face made her heart skip. "I was wondering when I'd see you again," he said. "You could have come to me. I wanted you to come to me. When you were ready." He gestured to the chair where she'd spent so many hours. "How's the writing going?" Emma felt heat creep into her cheeks. "How did you know I was writing?" "Thomas mentioned you've been here every day with your laptop. You're not job hunting. I would have known about that, so I assumed you were finally doing what you actually wanted to do." His gray eyes held a warmth she was beginning to recognize. "Was I wrong?" "No." Emma set her laptop bag down carefully. "I've written almost 30,000 words in 3 days. I don't even know if it's any good, but I can't stop." "Then don't stop." Dante crossed the room to her, and Emma's breath caught as he cupped her face in both hands. "Emma, do you understand what you're doing? You're choosing yourself. You're choosing the dream you buried under survival. That's—" His voice roughened. "That's everything." She didn't mean to kiss him. One moment she was staring up into those storm-gray eyes, feeling seen and valued in a way she'd never experienced. And the next, her lips were on his. Dante made a sound low in his throat and pulled her closer, his arms wrapping around her waist like he'd been waiting for this, for her, for permission. The kiss was gentle at first, almost reverent, like Dante was afraid she might break. But when Emma's hands fisted in his shirt and she rose up on her toes to get closer, something shifted. The kiss deepened, turned hungry, became the kind of kiss that made Emma forget why she'd ever thought this was a bad idea. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dante rested his forehead against hers. "Emma, I know." Her voice came out shaky. "I know this is complicated and dangerous and probably a terrible idea. I was going to say you're magnificent." He pulled back enough to look at her, his eyes dark with want. "And that I've been thinking about doing that since the moment I caught you in that hospital." "Then why didn't you?" "Because I needed you to choose this. Choose me, without the money or the gifts or the debt hanging over your head." His thumb brushed her lower lip and Emma shivered. "I needed to know you wanted me, not what I could give you." "I'm still not sure there's a difference." Emma forced herself to be honest. "You've changed my entire life in less than a week. How am I supposed to separate the man from the rescue?" Dante's expression flickered with something that might have been pain. "You can't. Not yet. Maybe not ever." He stepped back, putting distance between them that felt like miles. "Which is why we should slow down." "What if I don't want to slow down?" "Emma, I'm serious." She closed the distance he'd created, her hand finding his chest where she could feel his heart pounding. "I've spent my entire adult life being careful, being practical, making the smart choice. And where did it get me? Drowning in debt and passing out from exhaustion in a hospital waiting room. So now you want to make the reckless choice? Jump into bed with a mafia boss because it feels good?" Dante's voice was rough, but his hand came up to cover hers on his chest. "You deserve better than that. Maybe I deserve to make my own choices, even if they're mistakes." "This wouldn't be a mistake." Dante's free hand tangled in her hair, tilting her head back so she had to meet his eyes. "But it would be complicated. My life. Emma, You have no idea what my life really looks like. The danger, the violence, the enemies who would use you against me in a heartbeat. Then tell me, show me. Emma's voice was steady, even though her heart was racing. Stop protecting me from the truth and let me decide if I can handle it. For a long moment, Dante just stared at her, his expression unreadable. Then he let out a long breath and released her, stepping back and running a hand through his hair. All right. You want the truth? I run the Castellano family. We control most of the drug trade, gambling, and protection rackets in Chicago and the surrounding areas. I have killed people, ordered people killed, destroyed lives and businesses and futures without losing sleep over it. His voice was flat, matter of fact. I'm not a good man, Emma. I'm a criminal, a murderer, someone your mother would tell you to run from. Emma absorbed this, her mind cataloging the information against what she already knew. Have you ever hurt someone who didn't deserve it? Dante's jaw tightened. That depends on your definition of deserve. Have you hurt innocent people, children, people just trying to live their lives? No. The word was firm, certain. I have lines I don't cross, rules. But that doesn't make me good. I'm not asking you to be good. Emma took a step toward him, then another. I'm asking you to be honest with me, about who you are and what being with you would mean. It would mean danger. It would mean looking over your shoulder. It would mean accepting that I've done terrible things and will probably do more terrible things. Dante's eyes searched her face. It would mean knowing that people might try to hurt you to get to me, that your association with me puts a target on your back. And what would I get in return? The question seemed to catch him off guard. What? You're listing all the risks. What about the benefits? What do I get if I choose this? Choose you? Dante stared at her for a long moment before answering, his voice dropping to something low and intense. Everything. You get everything, Emma. My protection, my resources, my loyalty. I would burn the city to the ground before I let anyone hurt you. I would kill anyone who threatened you. I would give you anything you asked for and things you didn't know to want. That sounds obsessive. It is. He didn't even try to deny it. I don't do things halfway. If you're mine completely. That's not romantic. It's a warning. Emma should have been scared, should have recognized the red flags waving in her face, but all she felt was a dark thrill running through her veins, a recognition of something she'd been missing her whole life, someone who would fight for her, who would claim her, who would make her his priority instead of an afterthought. Show me, she said. Show you what? Your world. The real version. Not the sanitized library and expensive dinners version. Show me what I'd actually be getting into. Dante's expression shifted into something calculating. You're sure? I need to know. Before this goes any further, I need to see the truth. He studied her for another long moment, then nodded sharply. All right. But Emma, once you see this, you can't unsee it. Are you prepared for that? I've been a trauma nurse for 5 years. I've seen things that would make most people vomit. I think I can handle it. We'll see. Dante pulled out his phone and made a quick call in Italian. When he hung up, his eyes were hard. There's a meeting tonight, a negotiation with another family over territory disputes. Come with me. Watch. Then decide if you still want this. Emma's mouth went dry, but she forced herself to nod. Okay. Wear something nice. We leave at 9. He moved toward the door, then paused. Emma, whatever you see tonight, remember that I warned you. Remember that I gave you the chance to walk away. Then he was gone, and Emma was left alone in the library with her racing heart and the growing certainty that she was about to cross a line she couldn't uncross. The dress arrived at 7 p.m., delivered by a woman who introduced herself as Sophia and immediately set about transforming Emma into someone who belonged at a mafia negotiation. The dress was midnight blue, fitted enough to be elegant but modest enough not to scream for attention. The heels were lethal weapons disguised as footwear. Sophia did Emma's hair and makeup with expert efficiency, chattering the whole time about nothing important. When Emma finally looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. She looked polished, put together, like someone who had her life under control instead of someone who'd been drowning in debt a week ago. Mr. Castellano has excellent taste, Sophia said approvingly. You look beautiful. I look like someone else. Maybe that's not a bad thing. Sophia packed up her supplies. The car will be here at 9. Don't keep him waiting. Emma stood in her tiny apartment, surrounded by the remnants of her old life, dressed for a world she didn't understand. The smart thing would be to take off the dress, send Dante a text saying she'd changed her mind, go back to her safe, miserable existence. Instead, she grabbed the small clutch Sophia had left and headed downstairs when her phone chimed that the car had arrived. Dante was already in the back seat, dressed in a dark suit that made him look every inch the dangerous man he was. His eyes swept over her when she climbed in, and something heated flickered in their depths. "You look stunning." I looked terrified. That too. He reached for her hand, threading their fingers together. "Last chance, Emma. We can turn around right now. I'll take you home. We'll pretend this never happened, and you can go back to your life." Emma squeezed his hand. "I'm not going anywhere." The drive took them to the industrial district, to a warehouse that looked abandoned from the outside. But when they entered through a side door, Emma found herself in what was clearly a legitimate business operation, at least on the surface. Shipping containers, forklifts, workers in uniforms moving pallets. Dante led her through the warehouse to a back room that had been converted into something resembling a conference room. A large table dominated the space, surrounded by chairs. Men in suits, Dante's men, she assumed, stood at intervals around the room, their jackets bulging with the telltale shape of weapons. "Stay close to me," Dante murmured. "Don't speak unless spoken to. These men respect strength, and showing fear is dangerous." Emma nodded, her heart pounding so hard she was sure everyone could hear it. Dante guided her to a chair near the head of the table, positioning himself between her and the door. The message was clear. Anyone who wanted to get to her would have to go through him first. The other family arrived 10 minutes later. 5 men, all built like brick walls, led by someone who had to be their boss. A man in his 50s with silver hair and a scar that ran from his left eye to his jaw. "Castellano." The man's voice was rough, Eastern European accent thick. "You bring date to business meeting?" "Vitali." Dante's tone was cold, professional. "This is Emma. She's under my protection. That's all you need to know." Vitali's eyes raked over Emma in a way that made her skin crawl, and she saw Dante's jaw tighten almost imperceptibly. "Pretty. You have good taste." "The territory on the south side," Dante said, steering the conversation back. "You've been moving product in areas we agreed were mine. That stops tonight." "Or what?" Vitali leaned back in his chair, confident. "You start war over few street corners?" "I start war over the principle that agreements mean something." Dante's voice didn't rise, but the threat in it was unmistakable. "You knew those territories were mine. You moved in anyway. That shows disrespect." "So demand respect." Vitali gestured dismissively. "We negotiate. Maybe we split territory. Maybe we—" "There's no negotiation. You pull your people out by tomorrow night, or I pull them out for you, permanently." The room went very still. Emma could feel the tension crackling like electricity, could see Dante's men shift subtly into more aggressive stances. This was it. The moment where things could go very wrong very fast. Vitali's expression hardened. "You threaten me? In my city?" "It's not your city. It's mine. You're just visiting." Dante's hand moved to rest on the table, and Emma noticed the gun now sitting there, casual but unmistakable. "I'm giving you the courtesy of a warning because we've done business before. But make no mistake, this isn't a negotiation. This is me telling you how things are going to be. And if I refuse, then tomorrow morning, your operations in Chicago will be gone. Your distributors will be gone. Your protection will be gone. You'll have nothing left but the memory of the empire you used to have." Dante's smile was cold. "Do I make myself clear?" For a long moment, Vitali just stared at him. Emma held her breath, acutely aware that she was sitting in a room full of armed criminals discussing murder like it was a business transaction. This was Dante's world. Violence and threats and power plays. Finally, Vitali nodded. "We pull out. Tomorrow night." Smart choice. Dante didn't relax, but something in his posture shifted. "The south side stays mine. You want to expand, you talk to me first. We clear? Clear. The meeting ended with handshakes that felt more like truces, and Emma found herself being escorted back to the car on legs that didn't quite feel steady. Dante didn't speak until they were safely inside, the doors closed and the engine running. Well? His voice was carefully neutral. What do you think? Emma stared at her hands, processing what she'd just witnessed. The casual violence, the absolute authority in Dante's voice, the way Vitaly had looked at her like she was property instead of a person. You would have killed him, she said finally. If he'd said no, you would have killed all of them. Yes. And you've done that before, killed people who refused you. Yes. Dante didn't look away, didn't try to soften it. That's who I am, Emma. That's what I do. She turned to face him fully. That man, Vitaly, the way he looked at me, like I was a thing, a possession. I noticed. Did you want to kill him for it? Dante's hand clenched on his knee, the only outward sign of emotion. Yes. But you didn't. Because it would have complicated the negotiation. But if he'd touched you, his voice went rough. If he'd so much as reached for you, I would have put a bullet in his head without hesitation. Emma should have been horrified, should have demanded he take her home immediately. Instead, she found herself asking, what does it mean that I'm under your protection? It means you're mine. Dante said it simply, like it was obvious. It means anyone who hurts you answers to me. It means you have the full weight of my organization behind you. It means, he paused, choosing his words carefully. It means I've claimed you, Emma. In my world, that's as binding as marriage. You didn't ask me first. No, I didn't. He turned to face her, his eyes searching hers. Are you angry? Emma examined her feelings, surprised by what she found. No, I should be, but I'm not. Is that crazy? Probably. Dante's hand found hers in the darkness of the car. But I'm not exactly sane when it comes to you either. What happens now? Now I take you home. You sleep on what you saw tonight. Tomorrow, you tell me if you're in or out. His grip tightened. And Emma? If you're out, I'll respect that. I'll make sure you're safe, that you're taken care of, but I'll let you go. No pressure, no stalking, clean break. And if I'm in, then you're mine, completely. No half measures, no keeping one foot out the door. His gray eyes were intense in the dim light. If you're in, you commit. You accept what I am and what that means. Can you do that? Emma thought about the library where she'd written 30,000 words in 3 days. The apartment with all its repairs fixed, the debt that no longer crushed her, the way Dante looked at her like she was precious, the protection he'd offered without being asked, the violence he was capable of and willing to commit. She thought about who she'd been a week ago, drowning, exhausted, invisible, and who she was becoming. Someone who wrote instead of just surviving. Someone who ate real food and got enough sleep. Someone who had a dangerous man willing to burn the city down for her. I need to think, she said finally. Dante nodded, and something that might have been disappointment flickered across his face before he masked it. Take all the time you need. The rest of the drive passed in silence. When they reached Emma's building, Dante walked her to the door like a gentleman, his hand at the small of her back a reminder of everything she was considering. Thank you for tonight, Emma said, for showing me the truth. Thank you for not running screaming. His smile was wry. Yet. Emma rose up on her toes and pressed a kiss to his cheek, feeling him go very still. I'll call you tomorrow. I'll be waiting. She climbed the stairs to her apartment, acutely aware that Dante didn't leave until she was safely inside with the door locked. Through her window, she watched his car pull away and felt the weight of the decision pressing down on her. This was it. The moment that would define the rest of her life. Choose safety and struggle, or choose danger and devotion. Choose the drowning she knew or the rescue she didn't trust. Emma pulled out her laptop and opened the document she'd been writing, the story of the girl and the dangerous man. She read through what she'd written, seeing her own fears and hopes reflected in every line. Then she started a new chapter, her fingers flying over the keys as she wrote about a girl who chose to jump instead of being pushed. who decided that some risks were worth taking, who looked at the dangerous man offering his hand and said yes. By the time Emma finished writing, the sun was coming up and she knew what her answer would be. She grabbed her phone and typed out a message before she could second-guess herself. "I'm in." The response came immediately, like he'd been waiting all night. "Come to the penthouse. I'm sending a car." Emma didn't bother changing out of the dress. She grabbed her laptop bag, locked her apartment, and was downstairs when Marcus pulled up. The doorman at Dante's building greeted her with a knowing smile, and the elevator ride to the penthouse felt both endless and too short. Dante was waiting when the doors opened. He looked like he hadn't slept, his shirt untucked and his hair disheveled. The moment he saw her, something in his expression shifted from tension to relief. "You're sure?" he asked. Emma dropped her laptop bag and crossed to him. "I'm terrified. I think you're dangerous and possessive and probably bad for me in a dozen different ways, but yes, I'm sure." Dante pulled her into his arms, crushing her against his chest. "You won't regret this." "I might, but I'm choosing it anyway." Emma pulled back enough to look at him. "I need you to promise me something. Anything. Promise me you'll always be honest, even when the truth is ugly, even when you think it will hurt me. No more protecting me from reality." Dante's hand cupped her face, his thumb tracing her cheekbone. "I promise. No more secrets." "Then tell me what happens next. What does being yours actually mean?" "It means you move in here. It means you get guards. It means you become part of my world whether you like it or not." His voice was steady, unflinching. "It means giving up privacy and anonymity. It means accepting that people will talk, will judge, will call you his whore and worse. It means—" Emma cut him off with a kiss, pouring everything she couldn't say into the press of her lips against his. Dante made a sound low in his throat and backed her against the nearest wall, his body covering hers in a way that made her feel claimed and cherished all at once. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Emma managed, "I don't care what people call me. I only care what you call me." "Mine," Dante said roughly. "I call you mine." "Then that's what I am." Emma's hands fisted in his shirt. "Yours, completely." The smile that crossed Dante's face was fierce and possessive and full of dark promise. "Good. Because I'm never letting you go." Moving into Dante's penthouse happened faster than Emma could process. Within hours of her declaration, his people descended on her apartment like a well-organized army. They packed her meager belongings with an efficiency that made Emma's head spin. Clothes folded precisely, books wrapped carefully, the few personal items she owned treated like they mattered instead of the secondhand junk they actually were. "This is everything?" The woman coordinating the move, Sophia, who'd done Emma's hair and makeup, surveyed the small collection of boxes with poorly concealed surprise. Emma felt heat creep into her cheeks. "I travel light." "Well, that's about to change." Sophia's smile was warm rather than pitying. "Mr. Castellano has already arranged for your closet to be stocked. The interior designer will be here this afternoon to discuss personalizing your space." "My space?" "The master suite. You'll share it with Mr. Castellano, obviously, but he wants you to feel like it's yours too." Sophia checked her tablet. "There's also the question of your work schedule. He mentioned you'd want to continue at the hospital part-time?" Emma's head was spinning. Yes, I'm not quitting nursing." "Of course not. But you'll need security if you're going to keep working. I'll arrange for a detail." Sophia made a note. "Discreet. They won't interfere with your patients." The reality of what she'd agreed to was sinking in fast. Emma grabbed her phone and retreated to her tiny bathroom, the only place she could get a moment of privacy, and called Dante. He answered on the first ring. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. Emma sat on the edge of the bathtub. "This is moving really fast. There are people packing my apartment and talking about security details and interior designers, and I feel like I'm being swept away in a current. Do you want me to slow it down?" His voice was calm, steady. "I can call everyone off right now. We can take this at whatever pace you need." "No, I need to hear your voice. I need to remember why I said yes to all of this." "Come to the study. Second door on the left from the library." Emma pulled the phone from her ear, confused. I'm at my apartment. No, you're not. Look out your bathroom window. Moving to the small window, Emma peered out and felt her heart skip. She could see Dante's building from here, the penthouse level visible even at this distance. And when she looked closer, she could see a figure standing at one of those windows, phone to his ear. You've been watching me? She should have been creeped out. Instead, she felt oddly comforted. I've been making sure you're safe while my people are in your space. There's a difference. His voice dropped lower. But yes, Emma, I watch you. I watch you and think about how you'll look in my bed tonight, how you'll sound when I finally make you mine completely, how you'll feel when you realize you're never going to be alone again. Heat flooded through Emma's body, pooling low in her belly. Dante? Come home, Emma. Let me show you what you've agreed to. The call ended and Emma found herself staring at her reflection in the bathroom mirror. Her eyes were wide, her cheeks flushed, her breathing unsteady. This was insane. She was moving in with a man she'd known for barely a week, a criminal, a killer, someone who watched her from his penthouse and spoke about possession like it was romance. She should be running. Instead, she went back out to help pack. 2 hours later, Emma stood in the master suite of Dante's penthouse, surrounded by her pathetic collection of belongings that looked even more shabby against the backdrop of his wealth. The room was enormous, bigger than her entire apartment had been, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the lake, a king-sized bed that could sleep 4 people comfortably, and a bathroom that belonged in a luxury spa. Your things will go in here. Dante appeared behind her, his hand settling at the small of her back. But first, I want to show you something. He led her to the walk-in closet, which was the size of a bedroom itself, and Emma's jaw dropped. One entire wall was already filled with clothes. Beautiful, expensive clothes in her exact size, arranged by color and type like a high-end boutique. You can't just buy me an entire wardrobe, Emma protested weakly. I can do whatever I want. That's the benefit of being obscenely wealthy. Dante pulled her against his chest, his chin resting on top of her head. Besides, you deserve beautiful things. Let me give them to you. I don't know how to be this person. The person who lives in a penthouse and has a closet full of designer clothes. Then we'll figure it out together. He turned her in his arms so she had to look at him. Emma, I need you to understand something. This isn't charity. This isn't me trying to change you or make you into someone you're not. This is me giving you the foundation to become whoever you want to be. You want to write? Write. You want to keep nursing part-time? Do it. You want to spend 3 days in pajamas doing nothing? I'll bring you coffee and make sure no one disturbs you. What do you get out of this? You. I get you. His hands framed her face. I get to wake up next to you every morning. I get to know you're safe. I get to watch you transform from the exhausted woman who almost collapsed in my arms to someone who remembers how to smile. That's what I get, Emma, and it's worth more than any amount of money I could spend. Emma felt tears prick her eyes. I'm going to disappoint you. You're going to realize I'm nobody special. You're wrong. Dante's voice was fierce. You're everything special. You just haven't had anyone tell you that before. The interior designer arrived before Emma could respond. A sharp-eyed woman named Victoria, who swept through the penthouse making notes and asking questions. Emma found herself being consulted about colors and textures and styles, her opinions treated like they actually mattered. I want this to feel like your home, not a showroom, Victoria said, showing Emma fabric samples. What makes you comfortable? Emma thought about her apartment with its cracked walls and broken fixtures. I don't know. I've never really had a home, just places I slept. Victoria's expression softened. Then let's create one. First real home. What does that look like to you? Over the next hour, Emma found herself describing things she didn't even know she wanted. Books everywhere, soft lighting, a window seat in the library where she could curl up and write, plants that would remind her things could grow even in the middle of the city, photographs, not of Dante's family or heritage, but of places Emma wanted to see, dreams she wanted to chase. I can work with this, Victoria said finally. Give me 2 weeks and this place will feel like it was made for you. After she left, Emma collapsed on the leather couch in the living room, overwhelmed. Dante settled beside her, pulling her feet into his lap and starting to massage them through her socks. Too much? He asked. Everything about this is too much, but also, Emma hesitated. Also kind of wonderful? Get used to wonderful. It's your new normal. His hands worked up to her ankles, and Emma let out an involuntary moan of pleasure. When's your next shift? Tomorrow night, 7 to 7. Dante's hands stilled. That's a 12-hour shift. That's nursing. I thought you were cutting back. I am. I'm only doing 3 shifts a week now instead of 5 or 6. Emma sat up, pulling her feet back. Dante, I need to keep working. Not for the money. I understand that's not an issue anymore. But because it's who I am. I'm a nurse. I help people. That matters to me. I know. He pulled her into his side and Emma let herself melt against him. But you're also mine now, and watching you work yourself to exhaustion makes me want to burn the hospital down. Please don't do that. We're already short-staffed. His laugh rumbled through his chest. Fine, but you're getting a security detail, non-negotiable. Won't that make people ask questions? Let them ask. You're with me now, Emma. People are going to talk regardless. Might as well give you protection while they gossip. Emma thought about Marlene's reaction when she found out, about the whispers that would follow her through the emergency department, about becoming known as the Mafia Boss's girlfriend instead of just Emma Ross, competent nurse. I don't want special treatment at work, she said firmly. I pull my weight. I do my job. The security can wait in the parking lot. They'll be close enough to reach you in 30 seconds if something happens. Nothing's going to happen at a hospital. Dante's expression went dark. You'd be surprised what can happen when people want to hurt me. And they will want to hurt me, Emma. That's the cost of power. The question is whether they'll be smart enough to realize hurting you would be signing their own death warrant. The casual way he discussed violence should have bothered Emma more than it did. Instead, she found herself asking, have you ever lost someone? Someone you cared about? Dante was quiet for a long moment, his jaw working. My mother. I was 15. Rival family took her to get leverage over my father. By the time we found her, he stopped, his voice rough. It was too late. She'd been gone for 3 days. Emma's heart clenched. Dante. That's when I learned that caring about someone makes you vulnerable. That love is a weakness enemies exploit. His arms tightened around her. That's why I need you protected. Why I need to know where you are. Why the thought of you in danger makes me irrational. I'm not your mother. No, you're something worse. He looked at her, his gray eyes fierce. You're the person I'm falling in love with, and I will destroy anyone who tries to take you from me. Emma's breath caught. You love me? I'm getting there. Fast. Dante's hand tangled in her hair. Does that scare you? Terrifies me. Good. Fear keeps you sharp. He pulled her into his lap, and Emma went willingly, straddling his thighs. But don't be so scared you run. Promise me that, Emma. Promise me you'll stay long enough to see where this goes. I promise. She sealed it with a kiss, and Dante's hands gripped her hips hard enough to bruise. The kiss deepened, turned hungry, became the kind of kiss that led to clothes being removed and inhibitions being forgotten. Dante stood with Emma, wrapped around him, carrying her toward the bedroom like she weighed nothing. Wait, Emma gasped against his mouth. I haven't what? He set her on the edge of the massive bed, his hands already working the buttons of her shirt. I haven't done this in... Emma felt heat flood her cheeks. It's been a long time, okay? And I don't know what you're expecting, but I'm probably going to be terrible at whatever fantasy you have in your head. Dante stopped, his hands framing her face. Emma, look at me. When she did, his expression was so tender it made her chest ache. I don't have fantasies about you being some experienced seductress. I have fantasies about you being exactly who you are. Real, honest, mine. But you've probably been with, I don't care who I've been with before. I care about you. Right now. In my bed. Letting me worship you the way you deserve. His thumb brushed her lower lip. We're going to take this slow. We're going to learn each other. And if you want to stop at any point, we stop. Understand? Emma nodded, not trusting her voice. What followed was nothing like Emma's limited experience. Dante undressed her slowly, reverently, like unwrapping something precious. He touched her like she was art to be appreciated rather than a body to be used. He learned her responses, cataloged what made her gasp and moan and arch into his touch. And when he finally made her his completely, Emma understood what it meant to be claimed, to be possessed, to belong to someone so thoroughly that the lines between them blurred into something singular and essential. Afterward, lying in his arms with the afternoon sun streaming through the windows, Emma felt different, changed, like she'd crossed some invisible threshold and could never go back to who she'd been before. "What are you thinking?" Dante's voice was rough, satisfied. "That I'm in trouble." "Why?" "Because I'm already addicted to this, to you, to feeling like I matter." Emma traced patterns on his chest. "What happens when you get bored? When the novelty wears off and you remember I'm just a nurse from the South Side?" Dante rolled over, pinning her beneath him. "I'm going to say this once, so listen carefully. You are not just anything. You are Emma Ross, the woman who works herself to death saving strangers. Who writes stories about rescue because she's never been rescued herself? Who looked at a mafia boss and saw a man instead of a monster? You are everything, Emma, and I don't get bored with everything. Promise?" "I promise." He kissed her forehead, her nose, her lips. "Now sleep. You have a shift tomorrow night, and I intend to keep you up very late tonight." Emma fell asleep in Dante's arms, safer than she'd felt in her entire life. She didn't know that across the city, Vitaly was making plans of his own. Didn't know that her association with Dante had painted a target on her back. Didn't know that the danger Dante had warned her about was already circling, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. For now, she just slept. The next evening, Emma showed up for her shift at the hospital with a security detail lurking in the parking lot and Marlene's eyebrows somewhere in her hairline. "So," Marlene said the moment Emma reached the nurse's station, "you've been busy." "I don't want to talk about it." "Girl, the entire hospital is talking about it. You disappeared for 4 days, and when you come back, there are 2 men in suits watching the parking lot like hawks. What am I supposed to think?" Emma sighed and pulled Marlene into the supply closet. "I'm with Dante. Living with him, actually. It's new and complicated and probably a terrible idea, but I'm doing it anyway." Marlene stared at her. "Living with Dante Castellano. The Dante Castellano. Is there another one?" "Emma, do you understand what you're getting into? That man is dangerous. His world is dangerous. People who get close to him end up—" She stopped, shaking her head. "I'm not saying this to judge. I'm saying this because I care about you. I know what he is, what he does. He's been honest about all of it." Emma met Marlene's eyes. "And I'm choosing it anyway. Choosing him." "Why?" "Because for the first time in my life, someone sees me. Really sees me. Not the debt, or the exhaustion, or the survival mode I've been in for years. Just me. And that's—" Emma's voice caught. "That's worth the risk." Marlene pulled her into a hug. "Then I hope he deserves you, because you deserve someone who'll burn the world down for you." "He already offered," Emma said wryly. The shift started normally enough. Usual Friday night chaos, bar fights, car accidents, a handful of overdoses. Emma fell into the familiar rhythm, her hands steady even as her mind wandered to Dante. Was he thinking about her? Missing her? Worried? Her phone buzzed with a text around midnight. She checked it during a rare quiet moment. "How's the shift?" "Busy. Saved 2 lives. Lost one. Typical Friday." "I'm proud of you." 3 words that made Emma's chest warm. She typed back quickly before getting called to another trauma. "Miss you. I'm always with you. The security detail isn't just for protection. It's so I know you're safe, that you're okay." Emma should have found that creepy. Instead, she found it oddly comforting. Knowing Dante was keeping tabs on her, making sure she was protected, even when he couldn't be there physically. The next few hours blurred together. Emma was suturing a laceration when Marlene appeared at her elbow, her face pale. "We have a problem." "What kind of problem?" "There's a man in the waiting room asking for you. He won't give his name, but Emma, he's got 2 guys with him who look like they eat glass for breakfast, and he's not one of Dante's people." Ice flooded Emma's veins. What does he look like? 50s, silver hair, scar down his face. Vitaly. Emma's hands started to shake. She finished the last stitch on autopilot, gave instructions to the attending, and then pulled out her phone. Her fingers felt numb as she typed. Vitaly is here. At the hospital. What do I do? The response was immediate. Don't go near him. Security is coming. Stay in a public area with witnesses. 5 minutes. Emma showed the message to Marlene, whose eyes widened. What the hell did you get yourself into? I don't know, but I need you to call hospital security. Tell them there's a potential threat in the waiting room. Marlene moved fast, and within minutes, hospital security was converging on the waiting room. Emma stayed behind the nurse's station, her heart pounding, watching the corridor for any sign of Vitaly. He appeared at the end of the hallway, flanked by his men, moving toward her with casual confidence. Hospital security tried to intercept him, but he brushed them off like gnats. Emma Ross, he called out, his accent thick. We need to talk. I have nothing to say to you. No, not even about your boyfriend? About the deal he made? Vitaly stopped a few feet away, just far enough to be non-threatening but close enough to be intimidating. He didn't tell you. About how he traded you for territory? Emma's stomach dropped. You're lying. Am I? Vitaly pulled out his phone, showed her a photo. It was from the warehouse meeting. Emma sitting at that table, Dante beside her. He bring you to negotiation, show you off like prize, make me think you important enough to bargain with. Get out of my hospital. This not your hospital, this public place. I just here to deliver message. Vitaly's smile was cold. You tell Castellano that deal is off. He wants Southside, he give me something worth more than territory. He give me you. I'm not his to give. That not what he said. He said you his protection, his property. Vitaly leaned closer, and Emma saw Marlene reach for the phone. So now I make you my leverage. You come with me now, quiet, or I kill everyone in this waiting room. Your choice. Emma's mind raced. Where was Dante's security? Where was... The elevator dinged and Dante strode out with 4 men, all armed. His face was a mask of cold fury, and when his eyes found Vitaly, Emma saw murder in them. Get away from her. Dante's voice was deadly quiet. Now. Or what? You shoot me in hospital, in front of all these witnesses? Vitaly gestured to the patients and staff watching with wide eyes. You not that stupid, Castellano. You'd be surprised what I'm willing to do when someone threatens what's mine. Dante moved closer, his hand inside his jacket. Last chance, Vitaly. Walk away now, or I promise you won't walk away at all. Big threats. But you forget. I have 20 men outside. You have 4. Math not in your favor. Actually, it is. Dante's smile was terrifying. You're 20 men currently being arrested by CPD. Turns out I have friends in the department who don't appreciate Russian mobsters threatening hospital workers. So it's just you and your 2 idiots against me and my people. Want to recalculate those odds? Vitaly's face went red. You set trap. I protected what's mine. There's a difference. Dante reached Emma's side, his body a wall between her and Vitaly. Now get out of this hospital before I forget I'm trying to be civilized. For a long moment, Vitaly just stared at them. Then he laughed, cold and humorless. This not over, Castellano. Girl not worth war, but she will be worth something. You see? He turned and left, his men following. Dante immediately pulled Emma into his arms, his heart pounding against her ear. Are you hurt? Did he touch you? I'm fine. Dante, what did he mean about trading me? Dante pulled back, his expression grim. We need to talk, but not here. Can you leave? My shift doesn't end for another 6 hours. Emma. His hand cupped her face. Please. We need to talk about this now. Emma looked at Marlene, who nodded. Go. I'll cover for you. But Emma, be careful. The drive back to the penthouse was silent and tense. Dante kept his hand on Emma's knee, like he needed the physical contact to confirm she was real and safe. When they finally reached home, he poured them both drinks and sat her down on the couch. Vitaly is lying, he said without preamble. I never offered to trade you for anything, ever. The fact that you were at that meeting was to show him you're protected. that you matter to me. It was meant to keep you safe, not make you a target. But he thinks he can use you against me, and he's right. He can. That's the danger I warned you about, Emma. That's what being mine means in my world." Dante's voice was rough with emotion. "I should send you away, somewhere safe where Vitaly can't reach you, but I'm too selfish to let you go." Emma processed this, her mind working through the implications. "If you send me away, he wins. He makes you choose between me and your territory, and either way, you lose. I don't care about territory. I care about you staying alive." "Then teach me." Emma gripped his hands. "Teach me how to survive in your world. Give me the tools to protect myself. Don't just lock me away like I'm helpless." Dante stared at her, something like wonder in his eyes. "You want to learn?" "I want to be your partner, not your liability. If that means learning to shoot, to fight, to recognize threats, then teach me." "It means more than that. It means accepting that I'll have enemies as long as I'm in this life, that those enemies will always see you as a weakness, that you'll never be completely safe." "I was never safe before. At least now I have someone willing to fight for me." Emma leaned forwards, her forehead against his. "Don't send me away, Dante. Don't make that choice for me. Let me choose to stay." "You're going to be the death of me," he said roughly, but he pulled her into his lap, holding her like she was the most precious thing in the world. "But all right. We do this together. I teach you everything I know, and if Vitaly comes for you again, he won't find a victim. He'll find someone who knows how to fight back." Dante's smile was fierce and proud. "That's my girl." Training started the next morning. Dante woke Emma before dawn and led her to a part of the penthouse she hadn't explored yet. A private gym complete with weights, cardio equipment, and most importantly, a shooting range built into the reinforced back wall. "This is insane," Emma said, staring at the array of weapons laid out on the table. "You have a shooting range in your apartment." "I have a shooting range in my penthouse," Dante corrected. "There's a difference, and yes, it's soundproofed and completely legal. Perks of owning the building." He picked up a handgun, sleek, black, compact. "This is a Glock 43, 9mm, small enough to carry concealed but powerful enough to stop a threat. It's going to be your new best friend." Emma reached for it hesitantly. The weight surprised her, heavier than she'd expected, solid and real in her palm. "I've never held a gun before." "I know. That's why we're starting now." Dante moved behind her, his body bracketing hers as he adjusted her grip. "Finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot. Both hands, slight bend in the elbows. You're not trying to look tough, you're trying to stay alive." They spent the next 2 hours on basics: stance, grip, sight alignment, breathing. Emma's arms ached and her ears rang despite the protection, but she kept going. Dante was a patient teacher, correcting her form with gentle touches and praising small improvements. "Again," he said, after she'd emptied her 5th magazine. "Center mass. Don't aim for the head, too small a target. Aim for the chest. Biggest part of the body, hardest to miss." Emma reloaded. She was getting faster at that now. Raised the weapon and fired. 6 shots in quick succession, all within the center ring of the target. "Good." Dante's approval warmed her more than it should. "You're a natural. I work with gunshot wounds almost every shift. I know what bullets do to bodies." Emma set the gun down carefully, her hands shaking slightly. "I just never thought I'd be the one firing them." "You won't have to, not if I can help it." Dante turned her to face him, his hands on her shoulders. "But if it comes down to you or them, Emma, I need to know you'll choose you. Can you do that?" Emma thought about Vitaly's cold eyes in the hospital, about the threat in his voice, about the 20 men he'd had outside, ready to kill on his order. "Yes, I can do that." Then we keep training, every day until it's muscle memory, until you can draw and fire without thinking. Over the following weeks, Emma's life split into 2 distinct halves. During her 3 shifts a week at the hospital, she was Emma Ross, competent trauma nurse, helping patients and saving lives. The security detail stayed in the parking lot as promised, invisible but present. Her colleagues whispered but didn't ask, and Marlene kept her secrets. The rest of the time she was Dante's, learning to shoot, learning to fight, learning the intricate web of Chicago's criminal underworld. She met his people, learned names and faces and hierarchies, learned which families were allies and which were threats, learned the subtle art of reading a room for danger, of always knowing where the exits were, of never sitting with her back to the door. She also learned Dante, learned that he woke at 5 a.m. every morning without fail, that he drank his coffee black and liked his eggs scrambled, that he had nightmares sometimes about his mother, and the only thing that soothed him was Emma's hand on his chest, reminding him she was real and safe and his. Learned that beneath the cold exterior was a man who cried at old movies and donated anonymously to children's hospitals, who visited a grave every Sunday, his mother's, and left white roses because they'd been her favorite, who was building an empire not for power but for security, so he'd never be vulnerable the way his father had been. Emma fell deeper in love with him every day, even as she learned the full extent of what he was capable of. She was there when he ordered a rival's operation shut down, when he negotiated deals that would make most people's stomachs turn, when he made decisions that affected thousands of lives with the same casualness most people chose what to have for dinner. But she also saw the man who held her while she slept, who read her chapters of her growing novel and offered feedback that was actually helpful, who learned to make her favorite tea and kept the library stocked with flowers because he'd noticed she wrote better when there was something alive and growing nearby. 3 months after moving in, Emma finally finished her novel. She typed the last word at 3 a.m., tears streaming down her face, and immediately went to wake Dante. He didn't complain about the hour, just pulled her into bed and held her while she cried. "It's done?" "It's done." 90,000 words about a girl who gets rescued by a dangerous man and learns to rescue herself. Emma buried her face in his chest. "It's us. It's our story, barely disguised. Can I read it? It's rough. It needs editing and—" "Can I read it?" he asked again, and Emma nodded. Dante read the entire manuscript over the next 2 days, barely sleeping, barely eating. When he finally set it down, his eyes were red and his voice was rough. "Emma, this is incredible. You have to publish this." "I don't know how much. I know people, publishing people. Let me make some calls." "No," Emma said it firmly. "If this gets published, it's because the work is good, not because you pulled strings. I need to do this myself." Dante studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "All right, but when you do get published, and you will, I'm throwing you the biggest party Chicago has ever seen." Emma was researching literary agents when everything fell apart. It happened on a Tuesday. Emma was at the hospital, halfway through a shift, when every screen in the emergency department suddenly switched to the same image, a live video feed of the penthouse, of Dante's library, of the chair where Emma had spent so many hours writing, and of Vitali sitting in that chair smiling at the camera. "Hello, Emma Ross," his voice boomed through the hospital's speaker system. "We need to talk about your boyfriend." Emma's blood turned to ice. Marlene grabbed her arm, but Emma was already running for the exit, her phone pressed to her ear. Dante's number went straight to voicemail. She tried his security team. Nothing. Tried Marcus. No answer. Her hand shook as she texted the number she'd been given for emergencies. Dante's second in command, a man named Leo. "Vitali has the penthouse. Can't reach Dante. What's happening?" The response came immediately. "Dante's in a meeting across town. Vitali must have been watching, waiting for him to leave. We're en route. Do not go back there." But Emma was already in the parking lot, already climbing into her car. The security detail tried to stop her, but she ignored them, peeling out onto the street with her heart in her throat. The drive to the penthouse took 15 minutes that felt like hours. Emma's mind raced through possibilities. How had Vitali gotten in? Where was the security that was supposed to be protecting their home? What did he want? The lobby was chaos when she arrived. Building security down, unconscious but breathing. The doorman, Thomas, was on the floor, bleeding from a head wound. Emma's nursing instincts kicked in immediately. She checked his pulse, examined the wound. "Emma!" Thomas grabbed her hand weakly. "Don't go up there. He's got 5 men with him. They're waiting for you." "I have to. He'll kill you. He'll kill Dante if I don't go." Emma squeezed his hand. "Ambulance is coming. You're going to be fine." She rode the elevator up, her hand in her purse, where the Glock 43 sat loaded and ready. Dante had made her carry it everywhere, and for the first time, Emma was grateful for his paranoia. She wasn't helpless anymore. She wasn't the drowning girl who needed to be saved. The elevator doors opened directly into the penthouse, and Emma stepped out to find Vitaly exactly where he'd appeared on the video feed, in her chair, in her library, touching her things like he had a right to them. "Emma Ross." He smiled, spreading his arms. "So nice of you to join us." 4 men with guns surrounded him. Emma's training kicked in: assess threats, identify exits, calculate odds. The odds weren't good. "What do you want?" Emma kept her hand in her purse, fingers wrapped around the grip of her gun. "What I've always wanted. Leverage." Vitaly stood, moving toward her with predatory grace. "Your boyfriend took something from me. Territory, respect, 20 of my men who are now in jail. I want it back. So call him, negotiate. Why bring me into this?" "Because you are the only thing Dante Castellano cares about more than power." Vitaly stopped a few feet away. "I take you. He gives me anything I want to get you back." Simple economics. Emma's mind raced. Where was Leo? Where was Dante's team? How long could she stall? "He won't negotiate with you. You threatened me at the hospital. He'll kill you for that alone." "Maybe. Or maybe he'll be smart. Trade Southside territory and $3 million for his precious nurse." Vitaly's smile widened. "I already sent him terms. He has 1 hour to decide. And if he says no, then I kill you, slowly, on camera. Make him watch while I take apart everything he loves." Vitaly reached for her, and Emma's training took over. She drew the Glock in one smooth motion, muscle memory from hundreds of hours of practice. Stepped back, aimed center mass exactly like Dante had taught her. "Don't touch me." Vitaly froze, then laughed. "You think you can shoot me? Little nurse who saves lives? I'm a trauma nurse. I know exactly where to shoot to cause maximum damage without immediate death. I can make you suffer for hours while you bleed out." Emma's voice was steady, cold. "So yeah, I think I can shoot you. You have 1 gun. I have 4 men with 4 guns. Math's still not in your favor." Neither was Dante's math at the hospital, but he had a plan. Emma's finger moved to the trigger. "You think I came here without backup? You think Dante would let me walk into a trap unarmed and alone?" She saw doubt flicker in Vitaly's eyes, saw him glance toward his men. That moment of hesitation was all Emma needed. She fired, not at Vitaly, at the window behind him. The reinforced glass spiderwebbed but didn't shatter, and in the chaos of the moment, Emma dove behind the couch as Vitaly's men opened fire. The library erupted into violence. Books shredded under bullets, wood splintered, glass shattered. Emma stayed low, returning fire when she could, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might explode. Then the elevator dinged, and everything changed. Dante came through the doors like an avenging angel, Leo and 6 other men behind him, all armed. The firefight was brief and brutal. Emma stayed behind the couch, making herself as small as possible, until the shooting stopped and Dante was pulling her up, his hands running over her frantically. "Are you hit? Are you hurt? Emma, talk to me." I'm fine." She threw her arms around him, and Dante crushed her against his chest so hard she could barely breathe. "You weren't supposed to be here. Leo said you'd stay away. He has terrible judgment about what I'll do." Emma pulled back enough to look at him. "Is it over?" Dante's expression was grim. He turned her so she couldn't see the bodies on the floor, 4 of Vitaly's men, all dead. Vitaly himself was on his knees, bleeding from a shoulder wound, Leo's gun pressed to his head. "It's over," Dante confirmed. "Leo, get him out of here. Take him to the warehouse. I'll deal with him later." "Dante," Emma grabbed his arm. "What are you going to do?" "What I have to do. What I should have done the moment he threatened you at the hospital." His gray eyes were cold, empty of mercy. "I'm going to make sure he never threatens anyone I love ever again." "You mean you're going to kill him?" "Yes." No hesitation, no apology. "That's who I am, Emma. That's what I do to people who try to hurt what's mine." Emma looked at Vitali, bleeding, defeated, terrified. She thought about him threatening the hospital, invading her home, trying to use her as leverage. She thought about Dante's mother, taken and tortured and killed for exactly the same reason. Then do it, she said quietly. But do it because it's necessary, not because of me. I don't want to be the reason for more death. Dante cupped her face, his thumb tracing her cheekbone. You're not the reason. His choices are the reason. His decision to come after you, to invade our home, to threaten everything I've built. Those are his choices, and he'll pay for them. Okay, Emma leaned into his touch. But I need you to promise me something. Anything. Promise me this is the last time. No more enemies. No more threats. No more living like we're in a war zone. She held his gaze. I love you, Dante. I love you so much it terrifies me, but I can't live like this forever, constantly looking over my shoulder, waiting for the next attack. I need peace. We need peace. Dante was quiet for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he nodded slowly. You're right. This life, it's not sustainable. Not if I want to keep you safe. Not if I want us to have a future. What are you saying? I'm saying it's time to step back. Let someone else run the day-to-day operations. I've been building toward this anyway. Legitimate businesses, legal investments. I can transition out. Slowly, carefully. But I can do it. He pressed his forehead to hers. For you, I can do it. Emma felt tears sting her eyes. You'd give up your empire for me? I'd give up everything for you. Don't you understand that yet? Dante's voice was rough with emotion. You're not my weakness, Emma. You're my strength. You're the reason I want to be better. The reason I want to build something that doesn't require constant violence to maintain. I love you, Emma whispered. I love you too. So much it makes me crazy. He kissed her gently, ignoring the chaos around them. Now let me clean up this mess. Then we're going away for a while. Somewhere safe where we can breathe and figure out what our life looks like when we're not fighting for survival. The cleanup took hours. Bodies removed, police paid off, damage assessed. The library would need to be completely redone. Emma's heart broke looking at the shredded books, the bullet holes in the walls where she'd written her novel. We'll rebuild it, Dante said, finding her standing in the wreckage. Make it better than before, stronger. It won't be the same. No, but maybe that's not a bad thing. He pulled her close. Maybe we needed this. Needed to see how far we've come, how strong we've gotten together. They left Chicago 2 days later. Dante handled Vitali. Emma didn't ask for details, and he didn't offer them, and made arrangements for Leo to take over most of the operations. They flew to a private island in the Caribbean, just the two of them and minimal security, and for 2 weeks they did nothing but exist. Emma wrote. Dante read. They swam in crystal clear water and made love on pristine beaches and talked about everything and nothing. They planned a future that didn't involve violence and threats, discussed the transition away from organized crime and toward legitimate business, argued about where to live. Dante wanted to keep the penthouse. Emma wanted something smaller, more normal. I'm not giving up the library, Dante said one evening as they watched the sunset from their villa. I never asked you to. But you want normal. Normal people don't have libraries that take up 1,000 square feet. Emma laughed. Normal people also don't have private islands and gun ranges in their penthouses. I think we gave up on normal when I moved in with you. So what do you want? Dante turned to face her fully. If you could have anything, what would it look like? Emma thought about it, really thought about it. I want to keep nursing, part-time, like now. I want to publish my book, on my own merit, without any shortcuts. I want a home that feels like ours, not just yours. She hesitated. I want to marry you, someday, when we're ready. Dante's expression shifted into something tender and fierce all at once. Someday soon? Maybe. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. Emma's heart stopped. I've been carrying this for a week, Dante said, opening it to reveal a ring, elegant, beautiful, perfect. Waiting for the right moment, but I'm realizing there's no such thing as a perfect moment. There's just us, right now, choosing each other. Dante, I'm not asking you to marry me tomorrow. I'm not even asking you to set a date. I'm just asking you to say yes to someday, to building a life together, to being my partner in everything, not just the dangerous parts. He took her hand. So what do you say, Emma Ross? Will you marry me someday? Emma felt tears streaming down her face, but she was smiling. Yes, someday. When we've built something worth protecting. When we've made peace instead of war. When... Dante cut her off with a kiss, sliding the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, like it was meant to be there. They returned to Chicago 3 weeks later to find the penthouse rebuilt. The library was better than before, reinforced walls, new books, and a plaque on the wall that read, "Where Emma Ross wrote her first novel." The rest of the apartment had been transformed too, incorporating Emma's input from before the attack. It felt like home now, like theirs instead of just his. Emma's novel found an agent within a month, on its own merit, just like she'd wanted. The agent loved it, sold it in a 3-book deal, and suddenly Emma Ross the nurse was also Emma Ross the author. The book wouldn't be published for another year, but knowing it was happening was enough. Dante kept his promise. He stepped back from the violent side of the business, transitioning to legitimate operations. It took time, 6 months of careful planning and strategic moves, but eventually, the Castellano Empire was more corporate than criminal. Leo ran what was left of the old operations, and Dante focused on the legal investments that had always been his endgame. Emma kept nursing 3 shifts a week, kept writing in the library, kept training with Dante every morning because she'd learned to love the feeling of being strong, capable, able to protect herself. They set a wedding date for the following spring. Small ceremony, close friends only. Marlene would be there, Leo and his wife. A handful of others who'd proven themselves trustworthy. But one evening, 8 months after the attack, Emma came home from a shift to find Dante on the couch, his face pale, a letter in his hands. "What's wrong?" She immediately went to him, medical training kicking in to assess him for injury. "Vitali's brother, he's..." Dante stopped, his jaw working. "He's declared vendetta, blood for blood. Yet, he's coming for us, Emma. For you." The old fear tried to claw its way up Emma's throat, but she pushed it down. She wasn't the drowning girl anymore. She was the woman who'd faced down a threat with a gun in her hand, who'd chosen love over safety, who'd learned to fight. "Then we fight," she said simply. "Together, like we always do." Dante looked at her, really looked at her, and something in his expression shifted. "You're not scared." "I'm terrified. But I'm also angry, and I'm done running." Emma took the letter from him, read it, then calmly tore it in half. "He wants war, fine, but he's going to find out that you're not the only dangerous one in this relationship anymore." "Emma, no, listen to me." She cupped his face, making him meet her eyes. "I love you. I'm going to marry you. We're going to build a life together, and I'm not going to spend that life constantly looking over my shoulder, waiting for the next threat. So we end this, permanently. Whatever it takes." Dante pulled her into his lap, holding her like she was the most precious thing in the world. "You know what you're saying? What that means?" "I know exactly what it means." Emma's voice was steady, certain. "It means we stop being victims. Stop letting other people's violence dictate our lives. It means we take control." "You've changed," Dante said softly. "From the woman who almost fainted in my arms to this, you've become what you always saw in me. Someone strong. Someone who could stand beside you instead of behind you." Emma kissed him gently. "You didn't rescue me, Dante. You gave me the tools to rescue myself. Now let me help you end this." They spent the next 2 months planning. Emma trained harder than ever, learning not just defense, but offense, learning strategy and tactics from Leo, learning the art of controlled violence from Dante. She was still a nurse, still saved lives at the hospital, but she was also something more now, something harder and sharper and infinitely more dangerous than anyone expected. When Vitali's brother finally made his move, they were ready. He came with 10 men, expecting to find Emma alone at the hospital. Instead, he found a trap. Dante's people were everywhere, disguised as hospital staff, as patients, as visitors. When Vitali's brother tried to grab Emma in the parking lot, he walked into a coordinated ambush. Emma watched from Dante's car as Leo and his team took them down, watched Vitali's brother get forced to his knees, surrounded, defeated, watched Dante walk up to him with cold fury in his eyes. But instead of violence, Dante offered a deal. Your brother tried to take something from me. You're trying to do the same. I'm offering you a choice. Walk away now, take your vendetta and go back to Russia, or end up like him. What's it going to be? Vitali's brother looked at Emma, at the men surrounding him, at the impossible odds. Then he nodded. We go. Smart choice. Dante gestured, and Leo's team released him. But if I ever see you or anyone from your organization in Chicago again, the deal is off. Understand? Understood. They left that night, and Emma finally let herself believe it was over. The threats, the violence, the constant fear. It was done. Dante climbed into the car beside her, his hand finding hers immediately. Are you okay? I'm perfect. Emma leaned against him, feeling the tension drain from her body. It's really over? It's really over. He kissed the top of her head. We can finally just live. No more looking over our shoulders. No more waiting for the next attack. Just us. Just us, Emma echoed, and it sounded like a promise. They were married in April in the penthouse library, surrounded by books and flowers and the people who'd stood by them through everything. Emma wore a simple white dress and carried white roses. For Dante's mother, for the woman she'd never met, but who'd shaped the man she loved, Marlene cried through the entire ceremony. Leo served as Dante's best man, his wife as Emma's maid of honor. The officiant was a judge who owed Dante a favor, but performed the ceremony with genuine warmth. When Dante slipped the wedding band onto Emma's finger next to the engagement ring she'd worn for months, his voice was rough with emotion. I promise to love you, protect you, stand beside you through whatever comes. You're my partner, my equal, my everything. Emma's vows were simpler. I promise to choose you every day, in every way, for the rest of my life. They honeymooned in Italy, 2 weeks of wandering ancient cities and eating incredible food and making love in ridiculously expensive hotel rooms. Emma wrote in the mornings while Dante handled business calls. They explored in the afternoons, getting lost in narrow streets and finding hidden treasures. They talked about the future in the evenings, about the family they might build, the life they were creating, the peace they'd fought so hard to achieve. Emma's book was published 6 months after the wedding and became a surprise bestseller. People loved the story of the broken girl and the dangerous man who saved each other. They didn't know it was real, didn't know they were reading Emma and Dante's truth disguised as fiction. Emma did interviews and book signings, and Dante attended every single one, standing in the back with quiet pride. 2 years after they met, Emma stood in the library of their penthouse, their home, and realized she'd built the life she'd been writing about. The life where broken things got fixed and good people won, where rescue came from unexpected places and love was strong enough to survive anything. Dante found her there, wrapped his arms around her from behind, his hand settling over her still flat stomach where their first child was just beginning to grow. What are you thinking about? He murmured against her ear. How far we've come. From that night in the hospital to here, to this. Emma covered his hand with hers. To everything we've built together. Any regrets? Emma thought about the drowning girl she'd been, about the exhaustion and debt and hopelessness, about the moment she'd fallen into Dante's arms and let herself be caught, about every choice that had led her to this moment. Not a single one, she said honestly. You? Only that I didn't find you sooner. Dante turned her in his arms, his gray eyes warm with love. But we have now. We have the rest of our lives. The rest of our lives, Emma agreed, and kissed him as the Chicago sun set over the lake, painting their world in shades of gold. She'd started as a girl who was drowning, invisible, and exhausted, and barely surviving. She'd become a woman who could save herself, who'd learn to fight and love and build something beautiful from the ashes of what she'd been. And standing in the arms of the dangerous man who'd given her the space to become herself, Emma Ross Castellano finally understood what rescue really meant. It wasn't about being saved, it was about being seen, being valued. being given the tools to save yourself. It was about choosing love even when it was terrifying, choosing strength even when it was hard, choosing to build a life instead of just surviving one. And as Dante held her close and their future stretched out before them, full of possibility and promise and peace, Emma knew she'd made the right choice. She'd chosen him. He'd chosen her. Together, they'd chosen everything.